There we go. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries.
And I can't tell you how happy I am to do this because I'm a hardcore Matt Barlow, hardcore Iced Earth fan.
Nice, man. Well, hey, the pleasure's all over here, man. Appreciate it.
And I want to congratulate you first of all. Third album from Ashes of Aries, right? Emperors and Fools. Seems like it's been received very, very well. I loved the album from front to back. I really enjoyed what Freddie and yourself kind of created with this killer record.
Cool, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's sometimes we do the best we can, man. We just have fun doing it. So I guess that's the main thing, and maybe that's what kind of shines through. Then the more we work together, it seems like the better we get at doing it. Because the way we have to work, obviously, we work from two different sides of the country, so we're sending files back and forth and things like that. But I think we get the groove of one another and kind of get our style and how we do things. And we, I think we're definitely more open to giving ourselves, or each other points or whatever that we can improve upon. You know what I mean? Or things that. Right. Things that maybe like, just for instance, like at the end of, and I can't remember I think it's just one of those things that really works. Like if I ask Freddie, hey man, can you match this? If I'm doing this high part, can you match that with your guitar or whatever, just to kind of build it and make it more, big and expansive. Or if we do like a point counterpoint piece with a guitar part with my vocal part, just to make the song.
Yeah, but you guys have a very good synergy together.
Yeah, it's we're trying to make these songs sing, I think that the more that we work together, the more that we find we can do that, and even on parts that we might not initially feel like, hey, this needs this part or whatever, but listening to them, and we do listen to the songs, and we try to improve them obviously before we present them to the world, and we just do the best we can to do what we can with what we've got.
I got you. Yeah. I was going to ask you, I mentioned to you that I'm a big Iced Earth fan. And when I heard, first of all, I went in, I didn't research anything about the album. I love listening to an album fresh and just kind of letting it soak in. And as I'm going through the album, I'm like, oh man, Iron Throne, great song. Boom. I'm going through everything. And then comes in Monsters Laminate. And I'm like, wait a minute. Is that fucking Tim Ripper Owens on the song? And I lost it. Absolutely. How did that collaboration, what kind of sparked that idea to even do a song with Tim Ripper?
Well, it actually started with the last record that we did. This song was written with the intent of sort of doing on the last record. Okay. It didn't work. Had a lot of material anyway. And it didn't work out as far as the timing, with getting Tim. Now we had actually asked him about it, before that, and he said, he would make time and all that. And the thing is, it just worked out the best, I think, for everything. I mean, it was good. It's obviously going into a third record, having something like this that can sort of be a, icing on the cake for a third record, worked out just the best for us. And I think it worked out for Tim. He was, had more availability, unfortunately, because of COVID, obviously, and the touring aspect of things, since he's a full-time musician. But it also helped out, for us, it sort of made us feel good a bit to give him some more work, give all the other musicians that are hurt by COVID, give them a little bit more work and a little bit of money too, man. I mean, it's not a lot. Our budget's not huge, but we do what we can. And
really?
And it just makes us, feel pretty good about being able to help them out as well. And I know most part, like, I think Tim probably would have done it just to do it, but it makes us feel good to pay people stuff too, so
it really brought me back to the days, I would say, of like Dante's Inferno and Horror Show, when you had those big, long, epic songs. Yeah. And I really wasn't ready for, first of all, how long it was. I was really kind of just like, oh man, they really brought this epic level song for a third album, which I thought you guys kind of improved with each album. It only got better and better. I would even say when I first got into, like, I heard Ashes of Aries project coming from Matt Barlow. Honestly speaking, I was expecting Iced Earth 2.0, as I'm sure a lot of fans did. But as I listened and got into the band and understood the kind of the mentality that we need to carve a new path. We can't retread the same ground. I understood and kind of got into the groove. But were you ever afraid or of like the expectations of fans, what they might expect from you or want to hear from you? Or it was always like you had this thing in your head that you wanted to do?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the expectation is kind of always there because, fortunately or unfortunately, either one, I can't change what my voice does. You know what I mean? I try to do the best I can with what I've got with the tools that I've been given. And so obviously some of that's going to come out and it's going to be reminiscent of Iced Earth, to a lot of people. But, I did have the fortunate thing to work with Pyramaze, which gave people another idea of, hey, I can still be Matt, or I can still be Matt, but work with
a different side of
and
Matt.
have a different vibe, and even that, Pyramaze is completely different than Ashes, so it's cool. I can do that, but people are still going to go back to that, and they're always going to compare with Iced Earth. So that's the blessing and the curse of that particular thing. All I can say is, man, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Freddie's not John. Freddie doesn't write like John. I don't write like John. My ideas of song structure and things like that are not going to be, like John's. So we just do the best with what we've got, and produce something that we feel is something that we would want to listen to. At the end of the day, that's it. If it's not something that we want to listen to, then we're not going to do it. We've had songs either that we've had to rework or just scrap entirely, and just go, I'm not feeling it, or set it on the back burner until maybe have a different idea. Sometimes, just like any kind of writing, you can have a block on a particular song or whatever and need to go back with it. But getting back to Monsters Lament, that was Freddie's thing from the beginning. He had the idea of the song, the concept. He knew that he wanted Tim to do the other voice with it, the other character, and so basically I just was adding on to what Freddie had already had written out, which I think is brilliant, man. I think because the thing is with the song, you don't realize it's an 11-minute song. I think at the end of it, you go,
exactly, yeah.
Timing and all that is really cool. So I mean, along those lines, I would put it in that same category as those other songs that you had mentioned before, because you don't realize that you're there for that long. And because it is telling a story, and it's very intentional as far as what it's doing, and it kind of creates this cool mood, and it goes through different vibes. So it's definitely at least 2 or 3 different songs within the one song. So
and I think as a fan too, what happens is I've had this many times. You go into an album expecting one thing, you get another. You might feel disappointment at first, but it's most likely because you have this cognitive dissonance. And then as you get in, you're like, oh shit, but this is great. This is really, and this is what happened to me. And I was just like, I'm so happy that they went with whatever they wanted to do, and they did whatever they wanted to do. Because at the end of the day, if I want to listen to Iced Earth, I could just go back to the old albums. It's like, there's no reason to do that. And I was going to ask you, like, kind of, you talked about lyrics, you talk about music. Where do you guys pull inspiration from? Because even like I read By My Blade, just from what I've read, I'm like, is that about Blade, the comic book character?
I can't really say for sure on that. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I get inspired by comic characters, man, and that certainly that character is one of many that I have had from my childhood, and I was so stoked, and I don't think for one thing, I don't think the Wesley Snipes movie gets nearly enough credit for for what it did for what we all now know as the MCU. I mean, to me, that character kicked off the MCU because they took a lesser character, much like James Gunn did with Guardians. Took a lesser known character and made something out of that, and it still holds up, man. I can still go back and watch that movie however many years later now and watch it and go, that's still badass, dude. And that really inspired. But also, me growing up reading comic books, in the first introduction, and because I dug all the old Dracula comics, and that was like his first introduction into the Marvel universe was through Dracula. And so, I mean, obviously I'm a vampire nut as well. So it took, I've got vampire songs on like so many of my records. It's not even funny, but then I am able to combine that with a comic hero, or, anti-hero, as it were, to make this song. So it was important. And I think it just really worked out. It was something that I had in mind for a while. And then when Freddie presented the music, I said, man, this is perfect. The music goes perfectly with this character. And it's, just in your face, and, got very dark. And we ended up adding on to, because the kind of the dark and gruesome part in the center was actually going to, in Freddie's vision, when he first presented the song, that was the end of the song, trailing out. And I was like, nah, got to come back and just hammer it.
Yeah.
It worked out really well, I think. And we were happy with the way it turned out. And then obviously, I Am the Night, another one. So we sort of doubled up on the comic character stuff, but that's okay.
I love that. I love that, where we can be serious and we can have political statements, but we also can have our fantasy and just the love of different literature, whether it be comics, whether it be, I love when musicians kind of bring all that in. I think as fans, we just get closer to you guys because we can relate to you beyond music, and it's other things that we enjoy.
Yeah. And that's, and like you were saying with, with the political or social, statements or whatever, I mean, those are also brought into that's what comics do. Comics do that all the time, whether you really or not. I mean, they're telling a story, but there are other ramifications within those stories. And I try to, obviously, I'm the Night, By My Blade, those are all obvious to what they are. They're obviously, homage to those characters and things like that. But the other stuff that we do, I like to allow the listener to kind of gather their own thoughts on the songs and things like that. And obviously there are little, I leave little Easter eggs here and there, but as far as, what direction the song is going, but obviously you can take like, Emperors and Fools and use it in today's, political or social aspects of today. That was inspired by the Count of Monte Cristo, a line in the Count of Monte Cristo that Napoleon says. But it says a lot, just that whole thing, we're either kings and pawns or emperors and fools. I mean, a lot of us can relate to that in today's world and throughout history. If you look at it, that's sort of the way that things have been. So, the more things change, the more they stay the same, so to speak. So,
I would even say there's been like also many moments in your career where, like I can't say I followed every tidbit, but as I followed your career as a fan, there was moments in which we felt like you might completely step away from music, which would have totally broken my heart, if I tell you. But what was the thing that always pulled you back to the idea of music and music creation? What always kind of led you back to this path?
Just the love of it, man. I mean, the thing is, I felt when I left Iced Earth the first time, I felt there was something that I needed to do, after was certainly a calling. And I think it changed that experience changed a lot of people's lives in different directions, obviously. But for me, it was, service and kind of realizing what I needed to do for family and creating a family. As before my son was born, and before my wife and I, we had talked about having children and things like that. And really at that point, it just seemed like it was something that I needed to do. And I wanted to make sure that I was there for my kids as they're growing up, which, they're both teenagers now. So, it's been a nice ability for me to be here with my kids and watching my kids grow and being here for them and with them. But at the same time, being able to still do music. So, very blessed and eternally grateful to everybody that has allowed me to do that. Especially the fans, the people that keep what I do relevant and keep wanting me to produce stuff. And I'm happy to do that. And, obviously I'm very, very happy with our label who allows us to do that as well. Roar has been, amazing with the last two records. And, my hat's off to Nuclear nuclear blast as well. They gave us the first shot with the first record. They
Yeah,
didn't want
yeah.
to, but Roar just picked up the flame, man, and kept it going for us, and have been very, very gracious to us. So we're
I
happy.
I don't think fans really understand sometimes how difficult it is for musicians with family. Like I've had quite a few interviews where people just say, "I'm like, man, it's like thank God for phones and Skype, because
Yeah,
otherwise, it's like I wouldn't see my kids." And touring becomes a very difficult thing with family. And I totally understand where you're coming from, and I don't
yeah,
think any fan would ever nod somebody for that.
yeah. No, because it's brutal now, man. Because the thing is,
Yeah,
before the way the industry was prior to Napster and Spotify and all this other stuff, where
yeah,
musicians really don't get paid anything for their music. No offense, Spotify, but I mean, I could probably scrape together a couple pennies for the amount of songs that are out there. Now, the plus side of it is it gets our music out there and maybe in a broader fashion, but there's still the control aspect of it, and what music actually gets to people. There's a control aspect as far as on social media and all this other stuff. So maybe our music would be out there more if we paid more to do it and to push it. you
yeah.
know I don't know what the label does for us, but I know that I can't come out of pocket several grand to push my record. I just can't do it.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was just going to ask you a question about that too. I was going to actually get that comparison for fans. I grew up in an era before internet was born, so I know kind of the idea is like we
Yeah,
discovered actually Iced Earth by randomly going to Virgin Megastore, seeing the Spawn cover for the Dark Saga, picking it up. Like I
right.
was going to ask you the question actually, and you started answering it a little bit. Is as a veteran musician, how do you feel about the whole musical landscape? It's changed, right? It went from hardcover to digital. It went from an album to single songs that you got to release and people listen to. Don't consume a full album anymore. How do you
Right.
feel, and how do you look on this kind of whole environment?
Well, that's it, man. I mean, even before I left, I started, we sort of saw the writing on the wall. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think before I left, I think that John had gotten a new deal, I think at that point with SPV, and it was a pretty good deal. It was one that, certainly that John could survive on it, him being the main guy in the band. I mean, he was making that kind of money because the record labels were making that kind of money. That's sort of the way it worked out. Well, now the record labels aren't making much at all. I
Yeah.
mean, they're relying obviously on streaming and YouTube and things like that to stay afloat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're making physical copy for those that will buy it, and I encourage people to do that. And one of the reasons that we take as much time and effort into doing a layout for a CD and things like that, and having Camille do individual artwork for each song, just because we want people to buy that physical copy, because it's important. It's something, man, when you're holding on to it and you can see it and you can read the lyrics and you can see the love that we've put into the physical copy of it, as well as the music. It's really important. But the reality of it is that musicians don't get paid the way that they used to, and
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I saw the writing on the wall prior to me leaving the band, that it was going to literally take a band to stay on the road months and months and months and months out of the year to make a living, because that's where it wasn't in the writing anymore.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was physical live performances that were going to make you money, being the traveling t-shirt salesman, so to speak.
yeah, yeah.
That's the joke, but it's the truth. Bands make money selling t-shirts now, which is why maybe t-shirts cost more and things like that, but it's because they're not even getting paid by through Live Nation or whatever organization, which Live Nation has most of the venues in the world anymore.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
not and hey, they saw it too. They saw where the money was going, and it was in live performance. So it's no disrespect to them at all. It's just the nature of the
it's
business.
just how it is.
Yeah. So but I just couldn't see myself being away from my family for those amounts of times, just to eke out a living. And
Yeah, yeah.
that's just respect for working musicians that do it, because it's tough, man, especially when a freaking pandemic hits. I mean, how
Exactly.
the hell do you make money doing that? So here we are, man. I'm 18 plus, or 18 and a half years into my other career, that I chose to do. And, I
Mm-hmm.
can retire in a year and a half if I wish to. And then maybe from there I can do more music and concentrate on that, because I'm not going to, be worried so much about, where my income is going to be coming from.
I hear you.
We'll see, man. We'll see how.
I'll tell you. Me and my brother, we're the two people. Like he's the older brother to me. He's the one who's mostly would discover bands when I was younger. We're going to be the forever fans. We actually got to see you maybe 3 times in New York before you left the band. So I got really happy that I had the chance to see you. And actually coming back to the record as well, I listened to the album now many, many times over. And I noticed, at least from my part, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, I noticed a choice in vocals where you've chose to do a lot more lower range and kind of harsher, almost thrashier vocals to your signature high notes on this particular album. Was it a conscious choice for you, or it just kind of worked out this way?
I think that sometimes the music just speaks to me. So, sometimes I'll just hear what Freddie's giving me and feel like this is what is needed for this particular thing. So I think that's probably it more than anything. I just think this record just came off way more thrashy. So I was a little channeling my inner Chuck Billy a little bit.
Love it.
So that's sort of just the way it was driven for me. And then I did do like accent stuff, obviously, I've heard some like it or don't like it, about going back to like Bomb My Blade. I wanted to do those kind of, evenly matching kind of vocals on that, just because it just felt right to me. I did the lower tone stuff, and I just felt like it just needed something else just to accent and to counter accent. You can argue all day on the mix. I don't know. I think it works out really well, especially, I've heard it, with headphones and things like that. I think there's a cool balance to it, and especially kind of dual, dealing with that character in particular. I thought it was the duality of it. I thought it was that duality of that character. Maybe I'm thinking about it a little too much. Maybe I'm being more cerebral about that, but it just felt like it worked. Everything that I do with intent. I don't just, put, a bunch of tracks on there to do it. Like I was telling Freddie, when I'm creating a chorus or whatever, I want to be able to pull down the music, and I often do. So I'm creating a chorus and I pull down the music. I want the chorus to hold up on its own without the music there. That's my intent. If I've got all the pieces in place, sometimes you may not hear it all because of the mix, because we're obviously writing heavy metal, and we want the guitars and the drums and the bass to be, forward on that. You may not hear all the nuance, but I know it's there, and I want it, good and hold on its own without the music being there.
Let me tell you, it's very noticeable, because I think as there's musicians, there's also fans of different calibers. There's people that just kind of consume it and keep going, right? There's people who would want to listen to it. Like I'm one of those people, I'm going to listen to it 50 times and try to pick different things up every single time. And it's for those repeat listeners that keep coming back and keep hearing those elements that you put in the songs, whether it be an Iced Earth. Like that's why every Iced Earth record at this point is like imprinted in my brain. I don't even need to listen to it anymore, because I know every riff, every vocal line. Right. So I think the same will happen with Ashes of Aries for fans when they keep listening to it, especially younger fans, probably, who don't know who you are and they've discovered you through Ashes of Aries. So,
Yeah. And I've always felt that way, man. I would much rather be on a grower, so to speak. You know what I mean? I have no problem with that. And I find that, going back, I know that like, some of the, older Easter stuff may not have been like people didn't kind of catch on to certain things or whatever, and they'd go back and they'd say that. And I, for me, I'd much rather be on something that people keep going back to and listening to, instead of that, like you said, just kind of that flash in the, that it's like, wow, it's here, but, and then it's gone.
And then it's gone.
I'd much rather have lifelong fans and lifelong friends and listeners of the music than, just the flash kind of a thing.
I agree with you. And I was going to ask you another question, actually, about your kind of career. I've been really liking asking this question to a lot of people, because you get really interesting answers. And what has been your proudest moment as a musician, and like, in all the years that you've been doing it, along with what has been kind of your what the fuck moment that just kind of left you a little speechless?
Oh man,
to put you on the spot a little bit.
Really hard. No, it'd be kind of what the fuck. There've been a lot of those, and we call those spinal tap moments.
Spinal tap. Yep.
Really, and that's usually what it is. Like, on the road or whatever, when you're on the road and people are not, whether you're playing a club and somebody's not paying you or whatever, or getting ready for a tour. We were going to be doing a festival down in Columbia or something a few years ago with Ashes, and the promoter kept like changing and rechanging and doing all this stuff with flights and things like that, and we were just like, and it was sad, man, because at the end of the day we were just so bummed about it, because there was like a lot of hype and stuff like that, and like a lot of Columbia were ready for us to come down there, and we had to cancel because it was just too much. Like, what the hell is going on?
What the hell is going on there? Yeah.
Or, because especially when you're going to another country, you have to have everything in line, man. You have to have your work visas and all that stuff. And we just did not feel comfortable about getting down there, hopping on a flight that's like a last minute thing and getting down there and then stuff going south. And, so that's one of those deals where you just go, man, what the hell, man? And it could have just been a big misunderstanding at the end of the day, but we felt like we didn't want to put ourselves in that position.
That's a smart way to go about it.
Yeah, because really when we leave outside of our country, we're really relying on everybody else to put the pieces in place for us.
How about your most proudest moment that you ever had as a musician?
I gotta go back to like Alive in Athens, man. Just those couple of shows that we did for that. That's, it's kind of one of those things, man. Because people keep going back to it. People keep saying, "Hey, it's my favorite live album." And really just the process in doing it was amazing, and the people were so amazing with that. But we've had so many killer shows, man, and just throughout my career, I've just been really blessed by all the friends and fans that have been there and helped me out and help me realize what's important in life, and that's it. Sometimes it's just you go, music is the most important thing, but at the same time, family is very important. And, the folks that have been so supportive of me and going, you're right, doing what you need to do for your family first. And then, hey, we'll be here to support you with your music. So that's, I don't know, man. Yeah. I could go on so many
different avenues. Alive in Athens for me as a fan is an important one, because as much as I like all the vocalists of Iced Earth, it was the only time I will get to hear Storm Rider and all these kinds of songs done with your voice, like Travel to Stygian and all these kinds of songs. So for me, it's become a special thing, and I get video and I get audio. So it's great. But I do have, if you don't mind, one more question. This kind of is a big question. Now I know to any fan of Iced Earth, we obviously know what's happened to John in the recent year. And you expressed your kind of viewpoint already on it. And I purposely avoided asking any particular question on it, mainly because I believe the guy kind of deserves a little break. And despite how some people might feel about it, whatever side you want to go to. But what I did want to ask you is, what do you think was it about Iced Earth in the 90s and 2000s era for, John, yourself, and all you guys that just had the band dominate the metal world and just had this, what was the secret sauce of Iced Earth in your opinion?
I don't know, man. Obviously, John's writing has, had a great deal to do with that. I hope that I had something to do with it. Whether it was, kind of the heart. Everything that I put into Iced Earth is the same as everything I put into Ashes Varies. I put all my heart into it, and hopefully that's part of it. And hopefully maybe that's something that people picked up on and maybe helped out Iced Earth as well. But you can't take away from what John created and what he had made with Iced Earth, and we were, I like to think that we were certainly partners in that growing at that particular stage. But he's done amazing stuff, and that's.
I gotta say, I know you're being very humble, and you're a humble person. So I want to add two pieces to it. It's John's obviously writing the thrashy elements with the power metal that he really did with Iced Earth was amazing. But man, your vocals, your high pitched screams, your low growls, everything that you brought to this band. I mean, all the basses, the drummers, everybody, all you guys, I think it was a band on top of their game. And for me personally, I love thrash. I grew up on 80s thrash and all that,
Yep.
mixed in with power metal and that heaviness that it brought. It was nobody like it at the time because everybody was going in that neoclassical power metal or very, very flamboyant. And you brought the harshness in it that a lot of power metals just did not have.
Yeah. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, not like you. I was a huge fan of Bay Area thrash metal, and that's what I think that this latest with Emperors and Fools. I think we sort of we're channeling that as well. For this record. But yeah, I know that some of that was certainly in there. I started off with the thrashier stuff with my brother and our band that we Cauldron that we had formed together, and so some of that I'm sure bled over into Iced Earth at the time. But I got a lot of guidance as well, with where I was going, and I also maybe channeled a little bit of my old country roots and things like that for the ballad stuff. I think the thing is it's for me again. I go back to it. It's all about feeling, man. It's all about feeling whatever the song is telling me to do, and that's what I usually try to do. With working with Freddie. In the same way, if Freddie presents me with something, I try to let his music kind of guide me where I'm.
And I'll do one more thing is I'm Russian born myself, and I came here in New York. I've been here for 25 years, and it's toasts. We love toasts, and I heard your cry on the obviously the pandemic has hit all musicians really hard. So my kind of wish for you, my toast for you is let all this shit kind of just disappear. I would love to see you guys back on the road. And anything you guys will be making, you can at least know there'll be two fans in New York for sure. They'll be checking it out, hands down, all the time. And I kind of wanted to leave just the mic to you in the end. If there's anything you would like to say to fans, anything you would like to kind of close out on, I wanted to give you the last word.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate your time. For one thing, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to obviously promote our record and talk about some old times as well. And we will definitely try if we can get back to New York, man. New York crowd is always very, very, very generous to us, and we have a blast doing it. So we'll try to get out there and do some stuff. We'll see what happens with the lockdowns and all that. Unfortunately, the state of New York's not the best where that's concerned, right?
Yeah.
But if we can, we'll get out, man, and get around and do some shows. And we hope to do some more in other areas as well. And, if we can get over to Europe, that would be great. We haven't been over there since the first record. But man, we got to see, we just got to wait and see. Thank you to all of the folks that follow you, for listening and sitting in and listening to what I had to say today. And hopefully, give some insight into what we're doing with Ashes and what we continue to want to do, which is give you the best of what we can do. And everything that we everything that Freddie and I write, you can guarantee we put our heart and soul into it, man. We wouldn't be here if it were otherwise. So thanks again for your time, man.
I tried really hard not to fanboy out and ask really interesting questions, but my brother and I were like little two schoolgirls, like, you gonna talk to Matt Barlow? I'm like, yes. So again, thank you very much for doing it. I hope you have the rest of your day is great.
My pleasure, man. Thank you so much for your time, bro.